Hello and welcome everyone. It is time to enter the Kumite. Remember, this is not a sport. You don't play fight. What's up, fight fans? Today we're going to be taking a closer look into the upcoming bout between Brian Ortega and Yair Rodriguez. This is a very important fight for the featherweight division. This is where we find out who's going to be maybe one fight from a title shot and who's going to get tossed to the wolves coming up in the rankings. Movsar Evloev, Ilia Topuria, Bryce Mitchell, Giga Chikadze, the division is getting stacked. Brian Ortega's biggest weakness, in my opinion, is his lack of wrestling. If he had taken the time to really focus on his wrestling, I would have predicted him to win that fight against Alexander Volkanovski. He has so much potential with his BJJ. He's trained extensively with one of my favorite minds in BJJ, Rener Gracie, but we don't really see him impose that BJJ on his opponents. He isn't willing to commit to the takedown. He really just leans into you and tries to pull your legs out. He doesn't drop to the knee for the shot. He doesn't go low. He doesn't go for the ankle picks. He just leans over, and it's really sad to see. The only time we see his BJJ come into play is when he drops someone or they shoot or dip their head too low for just a moment from clinch, and it's a damn shame. He's the kind of guy that will attack with an anaconda, transition into a mounted guillotine, then roll into a triangle choke and be ready to collapse you in if need be. He really is a prodigy on the ground. One thing that we need to consider is that Ortega might get stuck on the feet with Rodriguez. Rodriguez throws crazy and in volume. Rodriguez is also the faster fighter. Ortega can be a bit slow to the punch. Ortega looks for the fight-ending shots most of the time, and that'll give him a chance to end things. But he can be a bit overzealous when trying to pressure you. He's prone to getting his feet crossed and getting caught with crosses or overhands coming in. Look for someone like Rodriguez to capitalize on this. Ortega's striking defense isn't bad, though. He just doesn't do well when people throw in combos like we saw in his fight with Max Holloway. Yeah, he slips and uses a Philly shell, but it's only successful on the first or second strike in a combo. I know I sound critical, but he is deadly on the feet. He finds the timing for the nasty shots. A lot of times, he's not winning on the scorecards, but maybe he got closer to finishing the fight at some point in the round. He might not out-jab you all night, but he fits in those knees on the chin. He finds the timing and has it waiting on the end of your head movement or your roll. He even has this murderous glare when he's fighting too, but yeah, he has nasty intention when he throws. He isn't wasting too much time on the accumulative shots. He's looking for the high kick, disgusting uppercuts. He likes to come forward and just pump his lead hand out there to gauge the distance for his devastating shot selection. He is definitely a finisher. He's not trying to spend too much time in there. I would like to see him utilize more of a jab rather than just gauging the distance with that lead hand, but, you get what you get. Yair Rodriguez, before the Holloway fight, I felt like he wasn't 100% proven. I wouldn't say he was fighting tomato cans. He did have some impressive wins over Dan Hooker and Andre Fili, but he had lost that fight to Frankie Edgar, and he wasn't very active. But in that Holloway fight, he showed me that he can hang with the best of the best. He finds those spinning elbows on the awkward downbeat of his opponents, and damn, he is sneaky with his shot selection. The Korean Zombie did so well in that fight, and Rodriguez caught him with something that he never saw coming. That is, to this day, one of the most disgusting things to watch, one of the most creative strikes I've ever seen. He has a wide arsenal of Taekwondo-style kicks, and he's willing to slam them in or spin with a heel kick or front kick up the middle. There's so many kicks that he can throw. He has such incredible dexterity with his hips. He definitely has a style to catch Ortega with some of these kicks. Ortega utilizes the Philly shell, so he's pulling on punches with his lead hand down. The Philly shell might help defend the body, and he might be able to turn his back to absorb some of the kicks with the shoulder, but that threat is definitely there. I do feel like Yair will be the busier fighter, and if Ortega doesn't land anything too meaningful, then I'd say Rodriguez will likely be winning on the scorecards. He'll throw things out there without worrying about the repercussions, and he's always landing at least a little bit of something, whether it be leg kicks, body kicks, the jab, or that lead hook. He loves to check people with that lead hook. I think he'll be starting the engagements for the most part and having Ortega react to it. I see that second or third strike in his combo being the one that landed, not necessarily the first. But he has great follow-ups, and he commits so hard that people think it's time to fire back, maybe earlier than it is. He is very dangerous in there. Like I said, Ortega is going to catch him with some big ones here and there, and they may end the fight, but I do see Rodriguez leading the dance for the most part on the feet. One thing that worries me for Rodriguez in this one is his lack of control on his various techniques, and sometimes he'll overexpose himself and compromise his position. This is the end that someone like Brian Ortega would need to get this fight to the ground. I think he's at the point now where he knows that he really shines on the ground, and his experience would point him to take the path of least resistance. And if this was Ortega on top of Yair, I don't think it would end too well. He is flashy on the ground, swinging himself around with his hooks on the leg, with a spider guard, or rolling into leg lock, but it honestly hurts him sometimes against the fighters who keep their cool and take it step by step on the ground. If he's up against someone who doesn't risk their positioning, we've seen him get stuck on the bottom, and he isn't the best at evading punches or elbows off his back. We really don't want to see him in a position like this against Brian Ortega. Ultimately, though, I'm going with Brian Ortega via third round submission. I mean, Yair Rodriguez is going to be dangerous at range, but he isn't the best with range management. He doesn't do too well when someone just keeps walking him down, and he gives people the opportunity with a lot of the crazy stuff that he throws to close the distance and get his back up against the cage. I see Ortega being wise enough to it to avoid the crazy stuff for the most part and get Rodriguez's back to the cage and start working. Ortega doesn't have the best wrestling, but Rodriguez doesn't have the best wrestling defense either, and hell, he might just go for a flying triangle or something, which would just be crazy. I'm kidding. Kind of. But I think Ortega will slowly start making this more and more of a dogfight and clinch and jump on any opportunity that Rodriguez gives him for a submission, and maybe wrapping up the neck and flowing into a few submissions based on how Rodriguez fights it. It's a close one. Almost a toss-up for me, honestly, but yeah, I lean to Ortega's submission capability for this one due to Rodriguez's habit of risking bad positions for flashy techniques. Don't get me wrong, with the Philly shell defense of Brian Ortega and the volume strikes and head kicks being mixed in from Yair Rodriguez, it's a dangerous fight for Brian Ortega. I could see something like a 1 high kick or a 2 lead high kick, and that catching Brian Ortega and like maybe turning the lights off. But yeah, I'm going to go Ortega, and I'm going to say a round 3 anaconda or Darce choke, maybe a guillotine. But there might be a point in clinch where Yair maybe just tries to push him off and create a little bit of space and lower his head when he's doing it, and maybe Brian Ortega wraps that up and just runs with it. With that, I'll go ahead and wrap things up. If you like the content we're providing, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you disagree with our picks, make sure to berate us down in the comments below. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and you can even follow me personally on Twitter. Remember, this is not a sport. You don't play fight.